What's up, my man? Here is a mid-day one update. As you can see, the car is already in the clean room. We've already done the decon, which chemically preps the vehicle for the PPF service that we're gonna be doing. It gets off any type of waxes, sealants, any gloss enhancing or hydrophobic enhancing product that might be on here that could potentially inhibit the bond of the adhesive to the vehicle. However, we are already doing rock chip repair on the hood, but we found during our paint inspection, which is the next step of our process after the decon, and it's a paint inspection. We make sure the paint is in good enough condition to give us the result we both want when it comes to the finished product of whatever service we are performing. The hood, as we've already discussed, looking fine. This little piece on the fender, no problem. Our issue is this bumper. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna flip the camera around and you're gonna see a bunch of little green dots. These are paint pieces that we've put on to visually represent every single defect that we can find in this area. Now, mind you, we sort of stopped at a certain point because this is only about half of them, and it continues to the other side. There are different types of defects that can or can't be fixed and chased down to a point that's good enough to put PPF on. I don't think, nor do I recommend necessarily chasing down adding paint to every single one of them. Most of them can just be sanded down a little bit and then just keep going as normal. The reason rock chips on this substrate differ than this one is simply because this is metal. It just chips the paint and it takes off. On this, being plastic, when it hits it, it morphs the plastic. It doesn't so much chip the paint, it indents the plastic and makes little peaks, little mountains that need to be sanded down. If we do not sand down those little marks, we will get the halo effect that the other shop told you about when it comes to rock chip repair, which, as we discussed, that means it's not being done correctly. So I'm gonna turn the camera around, we're gonna discuss it, and then we need to discuss a movement forward, because wet sanding the areas we need to on here obviously is going to incur added cost, which I wanna make sure you approve or don't approve, meaning some of these areas, not all of them, but a few of them will have the halo effect if we don't do the wet sanding. Let's take a look. Once you've got all the bug guts off, we can actually tell what is defect or bug guts. This right here, this is just like scrapes. This is not a good candidate for paint being put in because there's really nothing to grab onto. So something like this, we would just wet sand down. Same thing with this. And really, I haven't really found too many on the bumper itself that would benefit from paint being added. It's really just sort of a wet sand down, make it look a little better, and keep going. And then there's ones like this. This definitely looked like bug guts until we cleaned it off. This one is super bad. That will leave a monstrous air pocket behind it because that is a lot of defected plastic. It sort of continues. There's another pretty bad one right there. This one right here, I actually would put paint in to make it a little bit more aesthetically pleasing because it's just huge and there's a lot of plastic showing. This one, maybe or maybe not with the paint. Not really sure on that one. This one, add paint, then wet sand. Let me clarify. The reason I say I'm not sure with this one is because this plastic is so mangled that it wouldn't do us any good to add paint on top of this because there's so much fiber coming through. So we'd really want to just wet sand it down. Once we wet sand it down, there may not be anything for it to grab onto. So this one is sort of up in the air. So honestly, that's just where we're at right now. I don't want to proceed with the rock chip repair on this part until I hear back from you because I need to know what direction you want to go. Because no matter what, we're looking at an added cost if we do repairs before adding PPF. Obviously, if you don't want to do any repairs at all and sort of, test your luck with how it will look as is, you have the right to do that. That's up to you, man. I don't recommend it, and I personally wouldn't like the quality of the work that would come out of that would represent my company, but that's up to you. It is your pocketbook. If we want to go along with repairing as many of these as we can, I'm gonna sort of cut you a break here financially on it, just because I don't think either of us were expecting it to be this bad. And I don't want to hit you over the head with it, sort of with like a gotcha, because your car's already here. So I'm just gonna do, just like we did up here, I'm just gonna do an additional $250 to do as much repair on here as we can. With that said, even with the repairs, because these are so bad and there's so many of them, when we do put the PPF, I can guarantee you we're not gonna have anything protruding that will give you the halo effect, but I can't guarantee you that the ones that indent down into it, so a crevice now, that it will mold to that perfectly, and you won't be able to see said defect if you look for it. Just want to set that expectation, make sure you understand what you're going to be getting at the end. With that said, I'm typically pretty pleasantly surprised with how well it does mold to an indention once we put the PPF on. It does a pretty good job of that. It just does no good whenever it's a protrusion sitting out higher than the rest of the vehicle. So we will get started with the paint correction or the rock chip repair on the hood. I'll wait for your word for the bumper, and then we'll move on.
Trendsetter, whoa, league of my own, it don't get better. No, read what I wrote, I'm a bestseller. Yeah, reach for my goals.